Hey everybody, Dave Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Chandler Bolt. He's the CEO of Self-Publishing School, selfpublishing.com, and the author of 6 best-selling books, including his most recent book titled Published. Self-Publishing School is an Inc. 5000 company the last 2 years in a row as one of the fastest growing private companies in the U.S. He's also the host of 7-Figure Principal podcast, which we'll link up in the show notes, and Self-Publishing School podcast. Chandler, super excited to have you on the show today.
Hey, great to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I know there's a million things for us to talk about. We talked about, hey, we could dive into writing your first book. We could dive into operating principles and best practices at the firm, which I encourage everybody to check out your YouTube channel. You put a lot of great stuff out there about standard operating procedures, leadership frameworks and tactics. But today's interview is all going to be about how do you crank out your book? How do you take the expertise that's in your brain, which if you're an accounting firm owner, partner, leader, pioneer in the community, you have stuff in your mind that you could put to paper that could really help you position in the market. So that's what we're going to talk about with Chandler today. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds perfect. And just to riff off that, like I think, and we think about this and talk about this all the time, is as knowledge workers, like how can we amplify our expertise and grow, really the end goal is like grow your business using a book, right? And we look at when we're working with people, it's like, hey, grow your impact, income, and business using a book. But really, how do you amplify the sales process? How do you amplify the customer onboarding process? Like all those things, I think a book is one of the greatest tools that you can have in your arsenal to do that, which is how do you differentiate? But then also, and maybe this is just a question to spark thoughts for folks who are listening to this or watching this, which is what's the question, the broken record conversation or question that you just get over and over and over and over again, because chances are that's where you should write the book. And I know we'll get into that and how does it grow your business and all that stuff, but like that's where you should write your book. And not only will it help all of your sales mechanisms and your conversion rate on sales calls, your conversion rate on consultations or whatever you call the sales mechanism in your business, not only will the conversion rate of that go up, but it also helps with onboarding. So now you're onboarding customers who already know how you do things and who are already bought into how you do things. And then, and on and on and on. And really is that fundamental pillar to using a book and getting more leads, sales, and referrals. And we can talk about those 3 specific buckets, but I think, this is probably an applicable example at the start. It's like, I think one of the greatest examples of this is simple numbers, straight talk, big profits. I'm sure a lot of people in this market will know that, Greg Crabtree. And I just remember reading that book and it gave me such a better understanding of the numbers, but he also teaches a methodology of how he keeps books, like how he looks at making financial decisions from the numbers. And guess what? Oh, by the way, if you want your books kept in that way, you can pay his company money. And he's built a huge accounting firm off the back end of that. And I have a bunch of friends that have signed up with his company and they are their accountant all because they first wrote that book, right? And so I think that's a proven model, and I think that's just one small example, and I've seen it happen for a bunch of other folks in the space as well.
Yeah, and even as you're talking, it really sparks some ideas, I think, of how you can inject your book into the client experience. So whether you're selling it or giving it as a complimentary gift during onboarding, it really positions you well to being the expert, to driving client retention, to demanding the prices that you might ask for. So I think there's a lot to unpack there. If I'm an accounting firm owner, I think the way we'll break this down is probably fear number 1, I do not know how to write a book. And then fear number 2, which I definitely want to dig into because I don't think we talk about it enough, is how do I get people to pick up my book, read my book, digest my book? So let's start with part 1. If I'm a firm owner, I'm busy, although we're finally made it through tax season. We're recording this in 2020 and tax season felt like it was about 10 years this year, but maybe you're actually getting some time again. How do you, you have a famous TED Talk that's out there about how to write a book in a weekend. So I guess for firm owners that are struggling to get the first page down, what types of tips, tactics, or frameworks should they start thinking about in order to get some of their expertise into a book?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And I think it's an important place to start because for, you know, a lot of people think I don't have the time or how would I even do this? And I'll say like, I'm a C-level English student, a college dropout with ADHD, aka the last person you would ever think to write a book. And so, you know, sometimes they say the best players are the worst coaches, or the best students are the worst teachers, because they don't know what it's like to suck, or they don't know what it's like to really struggle. It's like everything just comes easy. So I feel like that is my superpower in a sense, is taking a complicated concepts and making them simple and specific to books. Obviously, but that's what we do all day long. But this will be a two-parter. First, you've already written the book, you just didn't know it yet. And you've written it in the conversations that you're already having and probably have had hundreds of times. And I'll circle back to this point. It's like, what are the things that you've just repeated over and over and over and over again on sales calls and on onboarding calls? And then also behind the scenes, like soapbox with your team. And like, this is how we do things. This is why this matters. This is our methodology. This is how we're different. Like all those things, that's the topic for your book. And then it's really just crystallizing that message into the mechanism of a book. And the good news is once you crystallize it into the mechanism of a book, well, then you've done the hard work of clearly communicating this concept. And now you can just communicate that concept in a bunch of other formats, whether it's podcast interviews, whether it's webinars, whether it's lunch and learns, whether it's trainings. And if you're already doing those things, well, then you've crystallized it, the message there. And now you just take that into the mechanism of a book. So it's a little bit of a chicken or the egg kind of thing. But if we're talking specific to a book, and this is what I talk about in my TEDx talk a little bit, I really break it down into a 3-step process that we call the 24-hour book outline challenge. And step number 1 starts with the mind map. So it's mind mapping all of the ideas that you have on this topic. And you might even be able to break out into sales call questions, onboarding questions, problem clients. Here's the things that they believe, and here's the things that get in the way there. Our most successful clients, like, here's what I really like about working with them. So how can I teach that methodology before someone even gets on the phone with a sales rep or someone in sales at my company? Or how can I use that as part of the onboarding to reduce churn, increase retention, increase lifetime value, increase average order value, all those things, right? So mind map, it could be all those things I just mentioned. Then it's turned.
Sorry,
Yeah,
before too. So I love this mind map idea, and I think, you know, if somebody gets one thing, I hope there's more than one thing, but I mean, really, if you pick up one thing, you're doing great. From this interview, is to mind map this concept of what questions do I keep hearing about in onboarding? What questions do I keep hearing about in prospecting? What questions do I answer for my best clients? What are they asking me? And what are the questions my worst clients are asking me? I think just getting that down from a process standpoint is phenomenal. I mean, yes, it's a springboard for a book, but like, goodness gracious, to just write it all down, get it out of your head, and then gut check it with your team. Hey, am I missing anything here? Are they asking us other things if you have a team? I think that's an amazing exercise.
100%. And I mean, we drink our own Kool-Aid or medicine or whatever you want to call it. Like, we do this exact same thing. It's like, hey, sales reps, what are the objections? Hey, student success, like, what are the problems that are happening? Okay, cool. I'm going to go do a revised and updated version of this. And we're going to give this book away like it's candy throughout the marketing, sales, and onboarding process. And we'll touch on the business building and all that stuff later. But so mind map is first step.
Yeah.
Turning the mind map into an outline, that's the second step. So from doing that exercise, you're going to have groups of ideas, typically about 5 groups of ideas. And so you'll group ideas into about 5 sections. You'll order those sections in the order that you want to cover them in the book, drill down about 3 chapters per section. So now all of a sudden you have, you know, roughly a 15 chapter outline. And then you move into step number 3, which is to write or speak the book. And the way you do this, super simple, because now you've done the hard work of getting clear, which is you start with, you know, now you start with chapter 1, spend 10 minutes mind mapping everything you can think of on that chapter, 10 minutes turning that mind map into an outline, and then 45 minutes to an hour and a half actually writing the chapter. And you repeat that process chapter by chapter by chapter. Or if you're a busy business owner that prefers speaking instead of writing, then you just spend 10 minutes speaking the chapter. based on the outline and repeat that process chapter by chapter by chapter. And so that, like, that's how, when I say the rough draft in a weekend, like that's how it's not only possible, but like, if you really want to do that, you can buckle down and just get a draft. And then now all of a sudden you can interject someone on your team, or, you know, you can start to build on it. Because I think what we see all the time is when you get a draft done, you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And this goes from, maybe I could do that, but probably not, to holy cow, I'm actually doing this. And like, it's not quite a downhill slope to the rest, but like, I'm really got some good momentum and I'm close.
Yeah, and I imagine there's so much, I guess you said it, momentum, right? If you get so you mind map it, you have these 5 common groups of ideas, you order those ideas, and each one of those turns into a section. Each section has 3 chapters. As you sit down to write these chapters, you go back to the mind mapping exercise, outline, and write. And I feel like once you have the blueprint, I imagine, okay, these are the 15 chapters. You know, it's almost kind of fun to dig into. I mean, that feels like the fun part is actually creating and writing or speaking
Totally.
or whatever you're doing.
Totally.
I think the
Yeah.
outline, going from 0 to 1, which the 1 being for me, the outline is so overwhelming that people don't want to start.
Yeah. And it's way better to have an outline that you can fill in, which is actually, we created, we're not running a SaaS company, David, but we do have, you know, a tool. It's a tool. It's a book outline template generator. So that's like our attempt at, like, you know, kind of building a little bit of a product development muscle like that. So it's like you press a couple buttons and then it spits out a 25-page Google Doc that you can type into. But that's exactly what you're talking about. You're going to go judge me when you check it out, because it's way lower tech and it is not anything resembling software. But it's a cool little tool. But like, that's the difference, right? Is either I'm staring at a blank Google Doc, which is extremely intimidating, or I have an outline and I just need to plug it into this Google Doc and then write chapter by chapter, which I think is a night and day difference when it comes to getting your first 1,000, 10,000 words on a page.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I feel like we now can conceptualize how to build out your book and how to deconstruct it. And I love the mind map idea. I mean, goodness gracious, I think. By the way, mind map tool recommendation, just because we're talking about tools, like, what do you like?
Yeah,
No tool.
so
Whiteboard or
for those
big
who are
notepad?
watching, this is me, man. And we have fancy little self-publishing school mind maps that you can download and print out. I mean, it pretty much looks like this,
So
just with a
handwritten
self-publishing school
blank
logo.
page, 8.5 by 11.
Yeah,
Right
I'm a
up.
big fan of the handwritten, because it's like one of our most popular blog posts on our website is best book writing software. And it's same here, like best mind mapping software. And I always say it's like, the best one is the one that you're already using, or the one that you can get the fastest words on a page, which I think for most people, it's not using a mind mapping software, because you're like, oh, let me tinker with the bubbles. And now I want this bubble to be red, but this one will be green. And then
Oh,
I'm going to
my
start
trial
color coding.
expired. Do I really want to buy it?
And I can't, it's just like, you know, you're going down a rabbit trail where it's like, you can literally just get a blank sheet of printer paper and start drawing. And that's going to be way faster, and you'll get to meaningful progress much more quickly.
Yeah. Well, let's skip a couple steps. Say we go through this, we knock it out, we get the book done. And I know on your website you have resources about how to get your cover done, finding editors, I'm sure all those good things.
Totally.
Obviously, we'll talk about the resources at the end. But let's say you have a book, because I've talked with some people in our community, they have a book, but they're underwhelmed with the impact that it's made. I don't know if you've ever heard this ever, you know, in your community.
Only all the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it's because they're not doing it right.
okay. So unpack how to do it right. If you have an existing book, can it be salvaged if you weren't selling it? And for folks that are thinking about writing a book, that's why I'll help paint the picture of how to get it to get on and be distributed. Because I think it's, whether you're writing a book or building a tool or anything else, you know, distribution is right there with product development. So if you haven't written your book, I think it's just as applicable. And if you have, I'm sure you could pick up a great couple things. So, all right, if they aren't doing it right, what's the right way to do it?
Yeah, and so there's 2 paths, right? There's, I want to make money off of book royalties, or I want to make money off of getting lead sales and referrals for my business. I'll briefly touch on the book royalties, but I'm going to assume that 80-90% plus of the people listening are way more on the growing business side of things. So I mean, the low hanging fruit from a book royalties perspective is like, you got to make sure your cover is really good. It needs to grab attention. The title needs to be easy to read. Your prospects need to instantly understand what the book's about and whether or not it's for them. You need to get reviews and be super intentional about that. We work with people to relaunch their books because in a lot of cases, they just weren't intentional about the launch. And they were like, oh, it's on Amazon. There we go. Okay. Hey,
What's
buy it.
what's an example of like a good book title or cover? It doesn't have to be an account. It could be anywhere that you're like, yep,
Yeah,
knocked
I
it out of the
mean,
park.
this will beat my own, or this will beat my own drum, toot my own horn, whatever you want to call it. This is a good one, man. It's by this guy. The guy's a total jerk, but the book's all right. It's called Published: The Proven Path from Blank Page to Published Author, right? And I'm kind of tongue in cheek here, but this is my most recent book. But you see, like published, this is a benefit-driven end goal that almost evokes like a visceral emotion. And then the proven path from blank page to published author. Proven path says, oh, social proof, right? Oh, this is a proven path. Blank page says evokes emotion and pain.
I
So
know
I've
where you're
got
coming
pain,
from.
and it's like, oh my gosh, blank page, yes. And then published author is like kind of aspirational, status driven, benefit driven, all that. So it's like kind of a balance of pain and benefit driven, but also, and this is more important than all the things that I just said, do you instantly understand what this book's about?
Mm, right.
And whether or not it's for you, right? And maybe you're like, cool, I get it and I don't want it. Perfect. But then there's another group of people who are like, I get it and I need it. And so that's the most important thing is does it clearly communicate what your book's about? And so from a book royalty perspective and all that, there's all that like get reviews, that's social proof. I could talk about launch teams, Amazon ads, like all that stuff, but that's like technical nitty gritty. And I want to switch gears to the business building, quite frankly, because it's way more lucrative. And I think we're way better at it. And it's exactly what we do. So we look at using books to get more leads, sales, and referrals. That's like the three main buckets that I focus on. So more leads, these are people who hear about you because of your book, right? So think, in my industry, it's like Russell Brunson, right? Like they hear about ClickFunnels, the software company, because they read one of Russell's books in a lot of cases. So they're new to your ecosystem. If we're talking about Greg Crabtree, it's like, oh, I'm in EO or I'm red scaling up and it said simple numbers, straight talk, big profits. So I picked up that book and now I understand Greg's methodology and I know about his company. So that's leads. So like more people who are hearing about you because of your book, and then more sales. So that's how can I use this book to increase conversion of the people who already know about me, right? So this is like for us, that's how do I integrate this into every part of marketing, the sales process, like all that. And we're less brick and mortar. But I mean, I see this, like we run webinars all the time. So it's like, get a free copy of my book when you register for the webinar, when you show up for the webinar. If you're running an in-person like lunch and learn or a workshop or whatever, it's like, oh, I'm going to do this lunch and learn for business owners, get a free book when you show up. So then you boost registrations, you boost show up rates, you boost close rate. So sales from that. So using it as part of the sales process. And just one other example is like, I could do a lot of speaking. When I go speak at an event, we'll give away hundreds of copies of this book because a book's the new business card, right? Like instead of me giving away business cards, people will probably throw them away immediately, if not within 24 hours, right? But I give them a book and they're like, shoot, I can't really throw this away. Like that would be, so like now it's in my bag. Now I take it home, whether I read it or not, it's in my office, it's in my bedroom. Someone else sees that and they're like, oh, what's that? And I might not even read it, but now I can actually refer you because I still have your book. And I know this is a long answer, so home stretch. But that brings me to the last one, which is referrals. And I think this is where people are underutilizing this, which is sure. So can I give it to every consult or whatever as part of the sales process? But then when someone becomes a customer, and I see this work in so many spaces that like knowledge working spaces like Kairos PTs, financial advisors, accountants, like, which is you just give every new customer or existing customer 2 copies of your book. And you say, hey, here's 1 copy for you. And this will help them become a better customer and increase average order value, lifetime value, all that. But you're turning active cut, or you're turning customers into active referrers. So you say,
Mm-hmm.
here's one for you. Here's one for a friend who needs help with XYZ, right? Who needs help with accounting for their business, right? Or whatever. So here's one for an entrepreneur buddy
Yeah.
that needs our help. And so now you're enabling them to, because they're not going to, usually they're not going to say, hey, you need to talk to my accountant, right? They're not going to do that, but they would give a book and say, oh, cool. This is like, you should check out this. It's going to help you do a better job of managing your books or whatever,
Yeah.
right? I'm just using these examples. But then also one thing that we do is we make it super easy to refer, because we just say, go to self-publishingschool.com/friend. And we give that link to all of our customers and say that just send your friends there. We'll ship them a free copy of this book. And just because they're a friend of yours. And if they sign up for Self-Publishing School, we'll pay you money and we'll give them a discount. So we're making it super easy for happy customers to now, someone says, oh, hey, hold up. What? You're launching a book? That's cool. Like,
Yeah.
how are you doing that? So long-winded answer, but that's how we focus on leads, sales, referrals.
So from the referral perspective, and then are you calling or emailing them? Hey, what do you think of the book? Is there anything you include with the book when they refer to somebody else? Is there a letter with it, or like how do you package that up from a referral standpoint?
Yeah, we could definitely improve that. There's a, it's kind of I'd say it's about a 7 out of 10 right now. But like they go to a page, it says, hey, you're here because you got somebody awesome in your life that wants to hook you up, right?
Yeah.
So we're making them look good. It's like, scroll below this video, fill out your address. We'll ship you a book. You don't even have to pay shipping and handling. Thank your friend on our behalf or on your behalf, right? Cool. And then thank you page is like, okay, perfect. We're going to send you this book. If you want help now, here are 2 things we can do. Number 1, scroll below. I've got a webinar that's going to teach you kind of in 45 minutes, the overview of what this book covers. That might be helpful. Number 2, cool. If you're like, hey, I'm in, like, I'd love to just work with you guys, scroll below this video, book a call with my team. We're going to give you a discount, so you'll get the best pricing possible in Self-Publishing School. You'll get a discount and you'll hook your friend up too, right? Like, so it's like win-win. And so that's how we redirect that. But then we ship them this, and then this just starts the whole chain and ecosystem over again. But that's how we transition. And obviously there'll be follow-up emails and follow-up calls from the team and stuff like that.
So, so by the way, I feel like we're totally underutilizing our book, which is Double Your Accounting Firm, which I don't know if you know this is for accounting firm owners, but you've given me like 10 new ideas to take our book and use it, which is super cool. And, but I want to take a step back because I think of a lot of firm owners, when you talk about giving away the book for free, you're invoking, and this is a physical book, right? Like you said shipping, we'll pay shipping, we'll get you the book. So like all in, what are you spending, $10 to get somebody a book in their hands?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it depends.
Maybe $5 if it's not shipping.
$7.15, media, mail, printed, shipped, etc. I think the costs have gone up just a little bit, but I think we're choosing to save time versus save money. So we could definitely get those costs down. It's just like easier for us. And so I think we're like $9.15, $10 domestic, shipped, landed. Yeah.
Cool. So you get $10. If you go to a live event, you bring a bunch with you. What's that? $5 a book or something like that? $6, $4, something like that.
Yep.
What would you say to the firm owner that's like, Chandler, sounds amazing. Sounds like I'm going to be spending a whole bunch of money getting out this book. I'm worried. Like, I don't, why would I just shotgun out thousands of dollars a year getting my book out? I mean, how do you kind of, because people are really going to be worried about buying so much product.
Yeah.
Especially in a business where to start an accounting firm, you don't have to buy a bunch of product to get out there. So I guess, how do you think about that?
It's a great question. I think I look at it as redirecting marketing expenses. And then so maybe the question is like, the follow-up is, I don't even have a marketing budget. Well, this is like, for me, this is redirecting some marketing expenses, but it's also like, it's planting seeds for future revenue. And I know that's like, okay, cool. Planting seeds for future revenue. Like I've got a P&L to hit next month or this month, like that. How does that make sense? So I look at it as like, I'm getting a lead and I'm paying $5 a lead. $10 a lead. So for me, like that's a cheap lead. And not only is that a lead, that's someone who is literally going to be reading my book and spending hours with me and getting indoctrinated in the full methodology. So at the end of that whole process, at a minimum, I've got an advocate and someone who can refer me business. Like at the very minimum, if they don't buy anything from us, we have successfully done that. So I guess maybe even backing up a little bit, like at events, it's like they hand a card to my team, which is like, here's my name, number, address, and they can check a box like, yes, I want to book a session with the team to talk about working with self-publishing school. And here's specifically what I need help with, right? So like, then it's simple. It's like, oh, cool. You get your book yet? Perfect. Okay, just fill out this card. And so it's like, so if you're working in any trade shows, if you do like, go to a trade show where you're giving out books and just see if you outperform everyone else that has a booth, because
Yeah.
you will. And it's like, because then even then the question is when someone's walking by, it's like, oh, hey, did you get your book yet? And boom, we're in a conversation, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so now my SDRs or sales development reps, like they're having so many more conversations at events like that, booking sessions, people are becoming customers. So like our average event will do, I think our average the first year that we did this was $42,000 in sales per event.
Wow.
And that's because we're using this playbook and using books as like as a primary point of fuel for that. And then as far as the logistics, which, sorry, I keep going like really long-winded answers, but like logistics, you have an assistant like pack it and ship it and then follow up. What did you think of the book? Want to talk about like you're basically, you can turn admin functions of your business into marketing and sales relatively.
I love that. I love that.
Because like the book's doing the work.
Yeah. I love that because most firm owners we talk to, certainly as they continue to grow, will have somebody in admin. They'll have somebody in admin. It's usually a very early hire because there's intake documents to triage. There's client chase things to triage. Shameless self-plug. If you're using Jetpack, we just released this integration with Zapier, or at least at the time of this airing, and people are dramatically saving admin time on their onboarding process because they're just piecing everything together. So if we can save you an extra 10, 15 hours a week on the admin level, and you have a book out there and you could get this person to follow up with prospects and leads about the book, I mean, goodness gracious, exactly what you said. You thought of an expense and you've turned it into a revenue driver in your business just to follow up and say, hey, we sent you a copy of the book. What did you think? Did you have any questions about it? Love to offer you a free profitability consultation, industry benchmarking, tax planning, tear down, whatever you call it, type of session.
Yeah. Right? And I love that you mentioned that. And so using Jetpack, save time, save admin time, and then use that time that you're saving to generate revenue. And I think this is an important thing to key on is every person in your business should be revenue generating. I feel like, especially in this industry, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, we have a sales or marketing guy and they help us bring in new customers. Or the CEO hops on with, people as they're thinking about using us or whatever. Like, I really think in this industry and in all industries that needs to be flipped. And like every person's job is to generate revenue. It just might look a little bit differently. Right?
Yeah.
Like the person who's doing the books or the person who is account executive or whatever you want to call it from account manager, like they're generating revenue by helping retention and generating referrals. But like really flipping that to, and this is something that when you go through lean times or tough times, whether it's COVID or whether COVID related or something else, like I think it's really important. And this is what we've done in the past. It's like, hey, everyone's responsibility here is generating revenue growth. And so like, that's a little bit of a soapbox. Just that I got on for a second.
Maybe that's your next book. That could be your next book. You don't know.
Everyone's in charge of revenue growth. But like within the context of this, it's like, how do you utilize someone that like someone in admin that most of the time be like, oh yeah, that person is not in revenue generation. They're not on the marketing team. They're not on the sales team. Their job is just to save me time. But I mean, it's like my assistant does this all the time, sending people books, sending people gifts, sending people an SPS box, like this little swag box that we have, like little things like that like help further strategic partnerships.
Oh, I like that.
Which I'll put it on the spot. Like, I don't know if this actually happened or not, but if not, it should have. It's like, you should have gotten an SPS box prior to us having this conversation. Like, little things like that make a huge difference from a long-term perspective.
I love it. Well, it depends if you send it to the office or the house because of COVID land, we're shifting locations. I'll talk to you. We'll connect after. But either way, that's super amazing. Chandler, I think there's so many things we could dig into. What I really respect about self-publishing school is I think you've really built out a sizable, impressive business. And so what I mean by that is, we obviously talked about you making the Inc. 5000 with 2 years in a row. So for context, you got to be over 2 million. Right. So you've built, a lot of things you're talking about. You've built out the team. You've built out the process. You've used this as a lead generation in your business, and you've built a really sizable business from it as well. So I love that what do you say? Eat your own medicine, drink your own medicine, whatever. Eat your own dog food,
Yeah.
drink your own medicine. Right.
We do both.
Yeah. If somebody's listening right now and you really sparked a lot of great ideas and frameworks and thoughts for them, and they wanted to connect with you, what is the best place for them to go to start exploring all the resources that you might have talked about in today's interview?
Yeah, resources wise, go to our How to Write a Book post on the Self-Publishing School site. We can link that up in the show notes. You'll find a webinar that'll be super helpful. You can get a free copy of my book published there as well. You just have to pay shipping and handling, or I guess I already gave away the friend link. So you can always use that in my explanation earlier. And then
the growing your firm friend link. That's what this has become.
Yeah, friends of the firm. And then the last thing, or last couple of things, is the book outline template generator that I mentioned. That's on that page. And then if you're like, hey, I just want to talk to your team and let's work together to get a book done, you can go to self-publishingschool.com/apply. So those are kind of the main places, the How to Write a Book post, and then the link to book a call if you just want to chat with the team. And I just want to mention this as we close, like, I love and am super passionate about what you guys are doing, both like you on the SaaS side of things and all of your customers from an accounting perspective. Like, I think it's the underutilized and underappreciated side of running a great business. And I think it's one of the things that's helped us grow so quickly at Self-Publishing School is like, from day one, we took this seriously, and we've had really great bookkeepers, really great accountants, really great financial advisor. I think it's just like, if you don't have good numbers, or it's like Warren Buffett says, like, if you don't know the score, you can't win the game. And if you don't have good numbers, you can't know the score. And so if you don't have good numbers, you can't know the score, you can't win the game. But I think it's just an afterthought, or like looked at as like this commoditized thing. And so I think it's totally the opposite, and it's so important. So just super passionate about what all of your audience is doing. But then I think on a meta level, it's super cool what you guys are doing with Jetpack Workflow. It's like you guys are just giving more fuel to these firms to just give them more efficiency, helping with streamline their operations. Like, I'm an operations and systems guy. And so just wanted to say that kind of at the end here, that it may not seem like I know there's probably days like, just like my business, where it's like, oh, we're just doing numbers, we're just doing someone's books, we're just doing whatever. But it's like, you guys are changing lives through businesses that then change the lives of employees, then change the lives of customers. It's just like, I could go on and on and on, but I just think it's super important and get fired up talking about it, obviously.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And look, if you enjoyed this interview, I mean, certainly check out the resources, but maybe you're out doing your run, your hop, your skip, your bike ride, your scooter ride, your hoverboard ride. There's probably going to be some new invention in 2021. It's something you can ride or flip over or whatever. Maybe that's you, and you got AirPods in like Chandler, and you couldn't write down everything today. You're like, oh my gosh, I want to do the mind map. Then what do I do next? You could always go to jetpackworkflow.com/blog, jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We're going to dissect this entire interview, show you the tips Chandler was talking about. We're also going to link up those free resources. Maybe we won't do the special URL link. You have to be a listener to get that. You can't just read the post. But we're going to link everything up on the blog. If you love this interview, leave a review. It helps us get the word out. If you really loved it, share it with a fellow firm owner. Maybe you know somebody that's written a book, hasn't really gotten them the ROI that they wanted, or maybe they've talked to you about writing a book. Share this interview with them. I think it's really practical, the takeaways we got from Chandler. And Chandler, thanks again for carving out the time to share this with our community.
Yeah, thanks for having me.